Hey everyone, this is Mike Andes, and you're listening to the Business Bootcamp Podcast. Again, we're coming to you again with a live call from today, actually, that I just made to Jonathan. Jonathan is president and owner of cloudpointgeo.com. They make these maps essentially for municipalities and government agencies, all sorts of different types of mapping, and you'll hear more about it in a little bit. But before we get into today's show, I want to say thank you to today's sponsor for the show, which is Gusto. If you haven't already from last episode, go to gusto.com/bootcamp. You're going to get a free 30-day trial of their software. And if you have any employees, you know what it's like to have to run payroll. And there's really a transition where you go from running it yourself to when you have enough employees and you basically say, you know what, forget it. I'm tired of spending hours trying to figure out these costs and all the paperwork and all of this. 86% of customers choose Gusto because it's easy to use. 98% of customers found it easy to switch to Gusto. So if you're already using some sort of software or you're doing it by yourself, your payroll, switching to Gusto is easy, and it's just like it's not super complicated. And that's the problem that I found with a lot of these other types of software or even QuickBooks. It can be a little bit confusing. You got to put all the different types of taxes and L&I and all of that. Gusto really simplifies that. You just essentially put in their hours, and it does all the work for you. It calculates the payroll, and it makes sure that, you know, all the different taxes are being paid, federal taxes, L&I, workers' compensation, all that other good stuff is being taken out at the correct rate and limits that it should be. What's also cool, it doesn't just do that. It doesn't just do the payroll. It does workers' compensation, it does the health benefits. You can create 401k plans for your employees. You can create 529 college savings plan for your employees. It does the time tracking for your employees, like for time off. Like they can actually like request time off and all of that. Just even your onboarding process for your employees, to see that from an employer, that level of commitment to the employees and HR is super important. So if you haven't already, gusto.com/bootcamp, you get a free 30-day trial. After that, it's only $39 to get started with the program for monthly, which is a whole lot cheaper than hiring some accountant or bookkeeper. I can promise you that. Gusto.com/bootcamp and put in Business Bootcamp Podcast in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Now, today, like I said, we're going to be talking to Jonathan. Jonathan is part of the 20 people that won or were chosen to get 20-minute phone calls with myself. And so I've been kind of booking myself out into the evenings with these calls. And this one's interesting because I really went into this conversation really thinking I wasn't going to be able to offer Jonathan much help, simply due to the fact that I had no idea exactly what he was doing. Like mapping, I'm not into engineering stuff. Like I've never done that before, but it was cool because it just goes to show how business is such it's really simple. Business is business. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Sales are sales. Marketing is branding, all this stuff. It's all very much the same concepts. And regardless of what industry, how complex it is, it really boils down to people and your processes and all of that. It doesn't matter a whole lot about what you're selling or what you're trying to do, what industry you're in. A lot of the same principles apply, whether it be people, whether it be just how to run a lean operation, things that we're going to be talking about today. It's going to be super fun, and I hope you get something out of it. Now, without any further delay, let's jump right into it. Jonathan from Cloud Point Geo in Illinois.
Hello, this is John.
Hey, John, this is Mike, Business Bootcamp Podcast. How you doing?
Yeah, hey, Mike, great to connect with you. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, my pleasure. Are you driving right now?
Yeah, sure am. Hey, sorry about getting my wires crossed the other night. I missed you there, so I appreciate you giving me another shot here.
Not a problem. Yeah, like I looked at your website, and like honestly, I don't know, what exactly you need help on, but like I'm not super familiar with even like what you're doing as far as like, because I know you're doing some mapping and stuff like that. So I'm interested to see what you're doing, and then if I can help at all, I'll definitely try.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll run it by you here quick. Okay, so I'm a engineer, civil engineer. I got 17 years experience. I've worked for a couple consultants, and I worked in the public sector as a county engineer. Prior to starting this business back in 2011, I left the county position there and started this up on my own, and just myself and a laptop. And I took basically building on my civil engineering background and decided to build on it and apply it towards GIS, geographic information systems, and mapping. And so I started to offer these services primarily for local government, counties, and municipalities. And that's really what's making up probably 80 to 90% of our work. So I've grown the business. Now I've got 4 full-time staff members, 3 part-time. Pretty similar to your window cleaning guy that called recently on the podcast.
Yeah.
He had it on there. I'm pretty similar to him as far as employees and stuff. So a lot of what he was asking was resonating with me on some of his questions. But we do, if you're familiar with the GIS websites where they have you can look up property information and parcels for the county. So we build those sites for folks. We also do GPS collection, data collection out in the field. We provide asset tagging for traffic signs. We go out and collect them with GPS. We'll tag them with the barcode. So in addition, now some of the newer stuff we're doing is mapping with drones. We do a lot of drone mapping now. This year it's kind of been our breakout year for that. And then also some 3D laser scanning. So we're just brand new to that. So we got a lot of things we're getting into. And so we got to be careful not to spread ourselves too thin. But it's an exciting market. Some days I feel like I'm sitting on a gold mine just trying to figure out how to market that, how to break some of those open. So I did have several specific questions I can run by you here.
Sure. Let me just kind of clarify. So you would probably do maps for say a township. Like when I go and I try to submit a permit, and they're looking at sewer lines, electric lines, all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. We do mapping for all that. Utilities is a huge part of our mapping infrastructure. Utilities is a big client of ours. And
then zoning and stuff like that as well.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, so we'll go in and do a town-wide water mapping project where we map all their hydrants, valves, all that, and then we build a GIS for them that they can help manage their system and be able to run analysis, simulation, that sort of thing.
How are they usually hearing about you when they come to you, John?
What?
Like the municipality, or whenever they come to you to do a map, how are they hearing about you? Do you know?
Most of the time it's been me knocking on doors. I have spent a lot of time going from every village hall and public works department, pretty much throughout the state of Illinois. If it's, I'm in central Illinois is where we're located. We go all over the state. We've done some work in Wisconsin. We'd like to try to grow that market as well. And we've done a couple projects, outside the state. And those are typically maybe a job we're doing some training for someone that's more specific to a high-end GIS consultation.
Cool.
So yeah, it's a great market to be in. We're in a professional services environment. I've got 3 of us have our GIS professional certification, and then myself, I've also got my engineering license. So I really want to focus on the professional services side. We don't want to sell ourselves as being low cost. We just would rather sell people on the quality of our work.
Yeah.
So the clients we've done work for are very happy. They love what we're doing. One of the questions I have is, how do I upsell my existing customers that are happy? We go in and do some work for them. For example, one town recently, it was $160,000 they spent on us going in and mapping their entire system. That was 2 years ago, and we haven't had any more work with them since, even though they love us. It's kind of like I'm trying to figure out how to go in and upsell them on whether it's traffic signs or something new, just looking for any ideas you might have there.
Yeah, once you create a map for a municipality, does it need service, changed and edited, or do you kind of give the reins over to them to do that?
That's kind of what we've been doing, is turning the reins over to them to do that. we build everything on the Esri platform. Esri is the major GIS software provider.
Okay. Yeah.
So we build it on that platform. And so they're making money on the client through their, annual maintenance on the software.
Mm-hmm.
But once we train the client, it's kind of like, hey, call us when you need us.
Right.
And they might call us once or twice a year, but rarely, does that really turn into a big job again. So
right.
we keep in touch with them through a quarterly newsletter and email format. We'll stop by there occasionally, but I'm sure there's stuff we can do a better job on there. So.
Yeah, like I don't know how complicated it is, or if it's like standard practice for you to hand those reins over. But it'd be interesting to see if you could somehow get them on a monthly fee, where you come in, say, once a month after getting them set up, and you make the edits and changes that they want, and kind of customize it for them instead of handing the reins over.
Yeah, so we've got 3 clients right now on that system. We call it managed services.
Okay.
So we have 3 clients on that system right now where they're paying us a monthly fee, and that's working out really well for us. We'd love to get more clients on that system. We're charging them anywhere from $1,500 a month to $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
Which is our top paying clients, and we have a list of what all we include with that, and it works out really well. They don't have to hire full-time staff for their GIS department, so it saves them on overhead, and they're getting the professional expertise of 5 or 6 professionals as opposed to just one. So that's worked really well. I'd love to expand that area.
Yeah, because like because what you could do, honestly, John, is like when you sell them the initial, what you want to kind of do is make it in their best interest financially to go that route. And what you can do is essentially incentivize them by giving, okay, so like for instance, right now, if you were going to do a project for $50,000, you could say, okay, for $50,000, we do this project. If you want us to train you on how to use the software, it's going to cost you $60,000. So essentially you're going to charge them $10,000 for you to train them, get them on so they can make all the edits themselves. Or you say it's going to be $50,000, but then we're going to come in once a month and do everything for you. And essentially you're going to make money one of 2 ways. One, you're going to make money on the recurring, or you're going to make money on the 10 extra grand, because it's obviously going to take you time to train them, show them how to use that software, and so they can edit it going forward.
Yeah, very true. I think that's what we'd like to focus on, is more of the managed services, because we see that as being they're very happy, the ones that are on that program with us.
Mm-hmm.
We go the extra mile. We give them, top-notch service. So I think it's a matter of trying to just plan that, ahead of time, and being able to, when they come to us, have that upfront cost ready.
Yeah, and then like as far as upselling them, like in the future, like so for instance, right now, if someone like a city comes to you and asks for like, hey, can you do a public works one? Are you right now going back a year later and say, hey, can we do land records or like collector maps or like something like that? Is that what are you going back to them?
Yeah, we're just starting to do that. We've kind of got more of a strategy in place as far as upselling them. When we say, okay, here's a list of clients we've done work for. What does client A need that they don't have right now that we can specifically target and approach them and say, hey, I'd like to meet with you, sit down and discuss this new opportunity, this new service.
Right.
So we are kind of getting that in place. Door to door has really been a big, selling point for us. We also hit a lot of conferences.
Yeah.
Those have, been pretty successful for us. They are, they're cost overhead. They're overhead heavy, I guess.
Yeah.
But we are seeing, the biggest, return, or we look back on the projects we've been successful on getting, and it's been mostly door to door and going to these conferences.
Mm-hmm.
So we're interested in online marketing. We've dabbled with it a little bit. We've got some blogs out there. Unfortunately, some of our most successful blogs are ones that aren't really producing the results we want.
Mm-hmm.
For example, one of them is, how much does the software cost, like the GIS software? Well, we don't really make any money by selling the software, but that's one of our blogs that's getting a ton of hits. And so we get 2 or 3 emails a week asking about, software cost, and some of those are international, and we're not able to sell internationally. It's not part of our agreement with Esri, so that's another something we're trying to refine our online marketing a little bit better too.
Right. And if there's like, for instance, if you have a blog post that's doing that, what I would suggest doing is at the end, making sure you have some sort of a kicker that's a sales pitch. Like if you're offering enough value to someone where they're going to be emailing, a couple times a week or whatever about, the cost, at the end of that, you can go straight into a pitch of how you can do the service side of that. Like that's,
Yeah.
that's content marketing at its finest when you offer content and value and at the end say, hey, I can help you do this, or I can create what, regardless of whether or not you buy this system, I can make the mapping for you and things like that. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
have you gone into private sector at all, John, or is it mostly
You
all?
know what? We're trying to do that. It's challenging because it's kind of like, where do you start?
Right.
But I would like to. I think I heard you suggest making a list of the top 10 clients that would just totally change our business.
Right.
And I've got a list of those. I just haven't started attacking them yet. It's kind of like, okay, do I start on LinkedIn and look for the right person to contact, or do I try going door to door there? That's part of the challenge, is narrowing down to the right person. But
right.
I like the idea. It's just a matter of getting on it and get started on it.
Would that be like gas companies, electric companies that you'd kind of go after at first?
Yeah, certainly big gas companies, electric. The tollway was another one I had written down. Just several big potential clients we could reach out to. So another question was opening a second office. We would like to open a second location. Right now, we're thinking about northern Illinois or Wisconsin area. We're looking at, do we hire someone in that area, or do we send someone from our area that already has been with us a few years, knows our culture, knows our company? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, how far away is the new location that you're thinking of doing?
It would probably be an hour and a half to 2 hours.
So essentially a new market. You're kind of using that as a way to break into a new market?
Yeah, pretty much. We've already, we've dabbled in that market. We've done those long road trips. We've had a little bit of success, but we would have better success if we had somebody on the ground right there.
Yeah,
I don't know if you got any ideas or thoughts on that.
Right. So just help me understand, like, do your clients ever come into your office, or are you usually going to where they're at?
We're usually going to where they're at. Yeah, rarely do they come into our office. It's all either we do work remotely a lot of times. I'd say almost a majority of our work is remote, unless we're on site doing data collection or training.
Yeah, like if it's an hour and a half away, like the leanest way to do that would be to try to get someone that's on your team to spend a week every month over there or something like that. Whether and during the other 3 weeks that they're home, they are packing their schedule for that 1 week with whether it be cold visits up to door to door stuff or going back to other clients in that area. That'd be the cheapest way, like kind of the leanest way. But an hour and a half away, making sure someone's there for a whole week, like that can be taxing. So if you're gonna do it, I would suggest making sure that it's just a very small office. Doesn't need to be like a retail location. It can be like even like a shared workspace, just a place for someone to go, like to be there working there full time. That's actually living there. Because if you don't need to make an office where people are coming to you, like a retail store or an office where you're meeting people at your office, I wouldn't spend a lot of money making sure it's on like, some really popular street or something like that. I just make sure it's in a place that, someone would feel comfortable working. And if you're going to start with 1 or 2 people, a co-working space would be a great option because they don't feel lonely just being 1 or 2 people by themselves. There's other stuff going on. It's cheap, for $500 a month, you can rent a office that has, a lot of amenities. You don't have to worry about, water bills, electric bills, internet bills, all that stuff. That's all set there. And then like I would be saying it differently if you had, you had the clients coming to you and you had to meet in your office with your logoed and, your kind of setup. But if you're going to them, to the leanest model, if you want to kind of even just test the market, like the beauty of this is if it doesn't work out in a year, you know what, you fire the people and then you don't have any lease, in place and crazy stuff like that, right? You haven't invested a whole ton of money. before
Uh-huh.
jumping all in. And that's a great way to scale and kind of test a new market is, put your toe in by doing a co-working space before you invest in a lease and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good idea. Yeah. Definitely.
Because if you don't want to be driving it, like I said, the leanest model would be to 1 week a month, you go up there, you send one person up there and jam their schedule full. But if they don't want to be away from home for a week, things like that, and you want to start the new location or like have someone full time, always boots on the ground, then
Hmm.
I would suggest something like that. Like even if you don't do co-working, even if it's just like a small in like a even in like an industrial area where you can just throw up your sign. If you don't have people coming to you, I think it's just funny how like sometimes people call in and they'll be spending like $2,000 a month on office space, and they literally are a call center. And it's like
Yeah.
you could basically do that in a room someplace, right? It's like
Yeah.
if you're
True. Yeah.
unless you need signage, if you're trying to attract like for a retail environment, you want to be on it's all about location, 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 right? Like how many eyes can you get on your sign and all that. If you're not
Mhm.
doing that, and if you're going out to get your clients, it doesn't really matter where you're at. So I just wouldn't get fancy if I
Yeah.
were you.
Okay. How about kind of switching gears again
Mhm.
on you? Have you ever heard of firing clients? I guess not. Maybe bad clients. I think I read a book one time, and he was talking about those clients that you kind of dread. You maybe sigh when you know they're calling or something. Firing them and focusing on the good ones and upselling them and making serving them even better. I guess so you're
Yeah.
not wasting your time on the bad ones. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally. Like the bottom line is you have to come to the place where you can afford to do it. Like you can afford to
Mm-hmm.
fire a client. Just the same as if you were firing an employee, you got to make sure you can afford to fire them, and you're not gonna the business isn't gonna go under because they're not there anymore. Same thing with a client. If you fire a client, you just need to make sure you need to be in a place financially where it's not gonna hurt your business. So if you're in the place where you're making good money, you have employees, like, and you know that firing a client isn't going to like affect the bottom line a whole lot, go for it. Or even if it's going to, like if you know you can survive it. Because like 80% of the customer service stuff is on 20% of the customers. And so like for us, we are continually shedding clients. And we don't try to like we try to make the transition like easy, as far as we're not like tossing them out or firing them. We're, finding them a new service or finding them a better service provider for them or whatever it is. So I don't know if you have competitors that you can kind of dump off those clients to, or if there's a way to even just raise your prices. Like that's the kind of end all, or like the last
Mm-hmm.
thing we try to do before we essentially say we're not working for you. We just raise prices, and then if they leave, okay, that's fine. That's what we wanted. And if they accept the price, it's like, okay, maybe we can put up with these people. Because,
Yeah. Yeah.
at the end of the day, there's a price that eventually that you're willing to take if for all the headache, right? So I would take either if you don't want the headache, fire them, get rid of them, or B, raise their prices to the point where it actually make it logistically worth it for you. And then you're kind of in that neutral zone of, okay, if they cancel, great. If they don't, okay, I'm gonna make more money. Um,
Yeah.
and then it's a win-win either whichever way they choose. But yeah, I'm totally in
Okay.
favor once you get in a financial position, because like I'm sure, as you know, when you first started the business, you put up with a whole lot more of that. And whether it be small clients that were a pain in the neck, whatever it was, you kind of did it because you needed to pay the bills. But once you get to the
Mm-hmm.
place, like we're at the place this year now, where like, okay, if we're gonna do 2 million, if I'm not gonna bend over backwards time and time again to satisfy a client I'll never satisfy if they're like $1,000 client, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but the metrics have to be there. Years ago, $1,000 might have meant a whole lot more. So if you're in that place though, and you're in that financial position, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. We're having one of our best years yet this year,
Hmm.
and we're hoping to continue that. We're shooting for 750, 800,000 in revenue.
Awesome.
So we'd like to get to that $1 million mark. And I hear you talk about the 100,000 a month mark. But what can you say for your experience? You're talking about maybe 2 million in revenue this year. What's the one thing or anything in particular that stands out that you can say this is what's getting us there, or this is
Hmm.
what I hear you talk about sales trumps all a lot.
Yeah.
would you say that's what it is? What's what it boils down to?
Well, at the end of the day, sales is going to make you go from any number to a higher number if you do more sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a more concrete really is the thing that's going to get you is because like when I hear that someone has 4 employees and you're the most qualified person, that's a trigger that I know that the biggest hump you're going to have is essentially trying to get out of the business as far as the
Mm-hmm.
day-to-day operations, working with the clients on engineering type stuff. That's going to be
Mm-hmm.
when you can drop all of that and work solely on the business, that'll be your biggest tipping point.
Okay. Yep.
So for me, like it's very hard at first, and that is, at first, I know the most about the landscape in the company. I know how to work everything. Now, when it comes to like bigger equipment, there's some equipment that my guys are better at, but they are better than me at using, like an excavator, track loader. They've been on more. And so the reason is because I'm not working in the business anymore. I'm trying to work on the business and just get really focused on that and not so much in like, okay, how is the engineering part going to work? Like all of that. And so for you, like I would look at your business just based upon what you said, 4 employees, it's a small business, and you as the 5th employee has the most experience, has the engineering that kind of sets you apart. The day that you offload that engineering or whatever role that you're having in the day-to-day operations and in the coding for the maps, and you focus solely on building the relationships with the municipalities, building a relationship with these private companies, building relationships with past clients, and creating marketing plans for them, creating ways that you can service them better every single day, reaching out to past clients and seeing if there's a way to either A, service the existing software, or B, upsell them on something that can help them more in another department. Like that's when you hit the tipping point. And that's like for us, that which it was big. Like when I step out of the business, say, okay, I'm not gonna get like as finicky about how we run this equipment and if everything is greased correctly and if they're using my style of scooping with the excavator, like let them do their thing, train them correctly, obviously. But the day that like I made the decision to step out of the business, the day-to-day operations, and like decide, okay, when I'm doing X, like for me, it's like mowing lawns. For you, it's like it might be coding or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm doing X, the company isn't moving forward. And as soon as you
Yep.
make that switch in your head, like it'll change the way you think about how to hire and how to outsource that work to your employees, and you'll put them in positions to take over those roles that aren't really moving the company forward. It might be making money, but like literally every single time I'm on a piece of equipment or like doing manual labor, I'm asking myself, how can I not be doing this? Like, how can I outsource this? How can I teach my guys how to do this? Because I want to make sure that I'm high level working on the business and not working in the day-to-day operation. So for you, that's what I would say for you. And when I say sales trumps all, sales is where you'd be going, right? Like if you
Yeah.
outsource that stuff,
Yep.
if you get out of the day-to-day,
Absolutely.
that's where you'd be going. Because like I already know, because you have the experience, you have the knowledge, you have the relationship with these municipalities, that you would be the one that would just blow away the sales. So I wouldn't outsource that right away. That'd be your ball game. And
Okay.
when you're 20 people in and you have 3 offices, maybe then you get another sales guy, and you focus on team building, stuff like that. But for now, I'd be thinking, if I was you, how can you get into sales only, whether that be following up, creating new clients, whatever it is, and then everything else within the business, trying to figure out whether it be hiring another engineer or whatever you need to do. That's what I would say is going to be the tipping point.
Okay. Cool.
So
All right.
hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, no, big time. It always helps bounce ideas off somebody. I really appreciate your show and your podcast. You got a lot of good practical advice on there. I love when you focus on things specific, whether it's a certain social media app or website, website hosting platforms, just things like that. I've gotten a lot of good pointers from it, so I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Jonathan. All right, well, you have a great evening, and then stay in touch. Let me know, how you're doing. Maybe come call or something. We can hop on the phone if you have any questions, or send me an email. That'd be great.
You bet. All right. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Have a good one. Thanks, Jonathan.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.